Hello, and thank you for stopping by. My name is Vivi Kachi, and today we are going to be discussing St. Patrick, as it is his feast day today. We're going to go over his life and also some of his tales, and we're going to discuss why St. Patrick's Day is celebrated the way that it is. So, without further sorry, without further ado, let's begin. For starters, nobody can really agree on what year he was born, but they can all agree that he lived during the 5th century, around the middle of it. So we'll start with that. He actually wasn't Irish. He was born into a Roman family that lived in what is now called Britain. And when he was in his mid-teens, he was actually kidnapped by Irish pirates, and then he was sold into slavery, where he was forced to work as a shepherd. It was during this time that he really started to strengthen his faith, um, and he would always pray that he would get freedom. One day, well, more like night, he had actually gotten a prophetic dream that told him that his ship was ready and that his prayer had been answered. And so he escaped and left through one of the ports. Some say Wexford, Ireland, but sources are a bit inconclusive there. And he actually made it back home and was reunited with his family. And then he received another prophetic dream where a man called Victicus came up to him from Ireland and told him that he was the voice of Ireland and needed to go back and spread the word of Christianity. And I am paraphrasing quite a bit. He actually writes a lot of this down in his Confessio. So that's actually one of the reasons why we know that St. Patrick is a real person, or at least was. He actually wrote several memoirs. I forget what the second one was called, but the first one was called the Confessio, and it does deal mostly with his capture and internment and his early days receiving more education in the faith of Christianity. Which, after he received that prophetic dream, he actually took a trip back into mainland Europe and was studying under and ultimately ordained as a priest, I believe, under Saint Germanus. So that's kind of interesting that he was ordained by another saint, but obviously he wasn't a saint at the time, since in order to be canonized, even in those times, you had to be deceased. He was so after he was canonized. After he was ordained, he then went on a missionary trip into Ireland to help spread the word. And there are actually several tales that are kind of fun. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are aware of the tale of him banishing serpents, but a lot of people nowadays believe that it's actually just metaphor for driving out the pagans who were reportedly aggressive towards him. I'm not saying that the church has a spotless record when it comes to uh, interactions with pagans, but yeah, it just it was definitely one of the times where the church was not having a good look. But I have not found any sources that suggested that St. Patrick himself was violent. Um, on the contrary, he was often considered very kind, and he also um, reportedly performed some miracles as well. One such miracle actually pertains to a pagan chieftain named Der. I hope I am pronouncing that right. I obviously wasn't raised with the Irish Gaelic language in my house, but I do wish to learn more about it, so I might take a few classes. Anyway, I digress. Uh, he had he had claim over the hill of Armagh. It's also known as Ardmacha. Um, I again, if I am mispronouncing things, please forgive me. Um, but Patrick wanted to build his church at Armagh, but he but Dara wouldn't allow this. Instead, he did give some lower ground to the east. Now, the thing is with medieval churches, they were almost always built on hills, and that was because of mostly for visual symbolism, because then you were technically closer to God, because God was considered up in the heavens, which, uh, if you look at the etymology for the term heaven, it often refers to the sky. And even in the Bible, Jesus is said to have ascended. So a lot of people associate heaven with being up, just simply up. Um, but the so churches are naturally built on hilltops because they were the highest up. So, in Derry, giving him lower land than the hilltop, it kind of, it was kind of, I guess, a slight, but I wouldn't know if he even considered it as such. But after he had done this, Derry's horses actually died reportedly died after grazing on the on the hilltop. So, out of revenge, he orders his men to kill Patrick. But then he was mysteriously struck with an illness. So, instead of killing him, Dare's men beg Patrick to help him. So Patrick gave them some holy water to use on both Dare and his horses. And then miraculously, they were all revived, which is weird. At least if you were a pagan, that would definitely be mind blowing. um, at least in those times, we don't know necessarily um, if this is a real story, but it is a good one. I find. Um, but Derry rewards Patrick not only with the hilltop to build his church, but with a great bronze cauldron, which a lot of people actually think is some like symbolism for the Dagda, which is one of the Irish old Irish gods who owned a cauldron of plenty, which is pretty neat. Um, but yeah, he is also known for the shamrock, and using that to describe the Holy Trinity, because that could be kind of a weird concept for people. Because the Christian God is three persons in one being, in a sense. So it is still one God. You know, well, he is still one God. But yeah, it's actually really cleverly illustrated with the shamrock, because the shamrock typically has 3 leaves on one stem. So it is one plant with 3 leaves. And that's pretty much it. But they do also find that it did have at one point a significance to pagans and their religion, but there are mixed sources on that matter. But the story of the shamrock did persist, and to this day, you would be hard-pressed to find a depiction of St. Patrick without a shamrock somewhere. Let's see. And, well, he actually was one of the saints that wasn't martyred, strangely enough. A lot of them actually were, but not Patrick. I have not found any evidence that he had any sort of violent death. So it leads me to believe that he had more of a peaceful one. Because of his good works, the more local dioceses around him are the ones who actually canonized him. Most saints actually got canonized by a pope, but there were a fair few also that were not, and they were canonized by their diocese. And at this time, this is early Middle Ages, often called the Dark Ages, because not a lot of stuff was written down. That's why it was called the Dark Ages. They all, a lot of saints were canonized locally, and this was fine because the exact process wasn't really put into practice yet. The process is the holy person would have to have been deceased for about 50 years, and they would have had to have had miracles attributed to them, not only in life, but also through intercession. And that's where it gets kind of tricky. Although there are some cases where, even nowadays, where some holy people are put sort of on a fast track through the processing of becoming canonized. One such is Mother Teresa, who has done a lot of good. But I understand that there are some sources that are claiming controversy. So, I don't know. I'd probably look into it, but I would look into both sides of things on that issue. Let's see. And then we get to what he's patron saint of. Well, he's actually patron saint of Ireland, obviously. Mostly due to he actually had petitioned for God, and God granted him this uh, to actually be the one to pass judgment on the people of Ireland during the rapture, um, which is just really interesting. But I haven't found a whole lot of cooperation with the sources, so I would possibly take this with a grain of salt. I also discovered that he is the patron saint of engineers, and this is because he built churches in Ireland. There's even a cathedral in Armagh that is still standing today that is dedicated to St. Patrick. He is reportedly buried in uh, Downpatrick, uh, but some people say he might not actually be there. But I hadn't had a whole lot of corroboration with sources on that one. So, there's so it is widely believed that he is actually buried there. And then he is also the patron saint of Nigeria, which is actually funny because the same year that he was declared patron saint of Ireland, an embassy actually opened up, an Irish embassy opened up in Nigeria. So they decided to also make him patron saint of Nigeria because of that. And I think that was actually kind of neat because it's sort of, to me, it sounds like more of a, like, hey, we got an embassy here, so you know what? Let's be friends. You can join in on all the celebrations too and stuff like that. So I think that's pretty cool. So now we get to the feast day. Um, a lot of people might be thinking, well, after hearing that it is that St. Patrick was an actual saint and all, like, well, are we really supposed to be drinking so much on a feast day that commemorates the death of St. Patrick? Because that's the thing with feast days is that they are always celebrated on the death. Well, not exactly celebrating the death per se. They're, the way the feast days are, they celebrate the life and good works of the saint. But it does always happen on the death day. Um, so he had been, and it is one of the most widely accepted facts, he was in that he died on March 17th. So that is where we have his feast day. With that said, the reason why people are definitely drinking on this day is actually because it always falls in the middle of Lent. And in the early days of Christianity, Lent was Lent continues to be the 40 days before Easter. And it is 40 days of basically penance, prayer, fasting. You're preparing yourself for the highest holy day, which is Easter, which celebrates the resurrection of Christ. So, because St. Patrick's Day falls in the middle of this, it actually acts as a bit of a break from Lent because it is a feast day. And so the church, in order to basically, it's not really, in order to basically have people be able to observe the feast day, They just said, you know what, just celebrate it because St. Patrick was really important too. Obviously, the rest of the time you need to be doing what you said what you would be doing, which is, you a lot of people have it's kind of like a resolution, but it is supposed to bring you spiritually closer to God. Where you give up something, or you can even just say, like, I'm going to do this more to help strengthen my faith. And that's sort of the point of Lent, is you're trying to strengthen your faith and your connection with God and everything. So it is actually a really nice thing. It shouldn't be seen as a drudgery. But a lot of people still do, but they see it that way, but whatever. You do you. I would say, so in the early days, you couldn't have beer at this time, or any cake, or anything like that, which on a feast day, you're allowed to. So that's why you are able. I know this is kind of a all over the place thing that I'm going through, but TLDR, it's perfectly acceptable to drink alcohol, provided that you are of legal age in whatever country you are. So you know who you are. um, and it's also, you might notice that some people actually wear orange instead of green. Green is the most common color to wear for celebrating St. Patrick. I think, and that's because of the Catholic influence. But there are Protestant denominations that wear orange instead, and that actually kind of comes from a long history of Protestants and Catholics just not getting along. There's still parts of Ireland where this is prevalent. It's a little sad, but the hope is that things will eventually get better between the two groups, because they believe in the same God. It's not like the common ground doesn't exist. But hopefully things work out better in the future. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is yeah, it is okay for you to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, pretend you're Irish for a day, because you know what? The Irish people like having drinking buddies anyway. So, it's all in good fun. It's something that, anybody can join in. It's just like Christmas. Anybody can join in on Christmas. So anybody can join in on St. Patrick's Day and have fun. And St. Patrick actually has a few other stories that are pretty cool. I do suggest looking them up. And yeah, it was kind of cool learning about the different things, because there were things that I actually didn't know before about St. Patrick, and that I know now. And well, I also hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you would like to stop by for the next video. I'm sorry that the audio got a little all over the place with this, and that is literally because my computer has been having issues with saving scripts. Like, I had a full-fledged report, and and the file got corrupted. And I could kick myself because I should have recorded it while it was in front of me. I should have recorded this while the report was in front of me, and I even had a full-on bibliography. If I can find the sources I used, I will put that bibliography into the either the description or a pinned comment on this video. Either way, you'll be able to see my sources. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I forgot to tell you about the yarn I've been using. It's a variegated green, obviously for the shamrock that I've been crocheting, and the hook used was a 4mm hook, and you may notice that I did some cutaways from this, and that's because I didn't think that you guys would actually want to see me go through all 3 leaves, because it actually took 45 minutes to do the first one, roughly. And so I am just speeding that up a bit. And I will show you the and I do show you the process in which I stitched all 4 pieces together. So originally I was planning on doing a pillow, but it in all honesty, just doing the small size took me so long that I figured I might as well just make it simpler and just turn it into more of an applique. So I might just put that on maybe like a scarf or a hat, or maybe I will put that on a pillow. Decisions. But anyway, I I do hope again that you stop by for the next video. Hopefully it'll be a lot more organized than this one. And I would like to wish you a happy St. Patrick's Day, and I hope it's a lovely one as well. Have a nice day. Bye.